The starship Hermes cut through the darkness of space, its fusion engines leaving a faint blue trail as it decelerated from faster-than-light travel. Captain Alina Reyes stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the viewscreen showing an uncharted star system. The Hermes was Earth's newest deep space exploration vessel, dispatched to map the outer reaches of the Orion Arm. All systems nominal, Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander Hiroshi Tanaka from the operations console. We've arrived at the coordinates specified by Central Command. Captain Reyes nodded. Begin standard survey protocols. Let's see what we've got here. The year was 2187. Humanity had been traveling the stars for just over 3 decades, having discovered the principles of gravitational manipulation that allowed for faster-than-light travel. The United Earth Space Command had dispatched dozens of vessels, like the Hermes, to explore and map new territories, seeking resources, habitable worlds, and perhaps most importantly, other intelligent life. Captain, I'm detecting artificial structures on the 4th planet, called out Science Officer Dr. Maya Chen, her fingers dancing across her console. Definitely not natural formations. Reyes raised an eyebrow. First contact potential. It appears so, Chen replied, excitement evident in her voice. The structures show energy signatures consistent with an advanced civilization. At least type I on the Kardashev scale, possibly type Ia. Alert status yellow, ordered Reyes. Tanaka, prepare first contact protocols. Communications, record a standard greeting in all formats. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. This wasn't Earth's first encounter with alien life. There had been 3 confirmed contacts in the past decade, but each new species discovered was still a momentous occasion. Captain, exclaimed the sensor officer, Lieutenant Jackson. Multiple vessels approaching from behind the planet's moon. They're moving fast. On the main view screen, several sleek, metallic vessels appeared. They were unlike anything human engineers had designed. Elongated asymmetrical craft with sharp, angular protrusions and glowing red energy signatures pulsing along their hulls. The largest was at least 3 times the size of the Hermes. They're hailing us, reported Communications Officer Patel. Audio and visual. Reyes straightened her uniform jacket. On screen. The view screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. The being had purple-gray skin with a ridged cranium that extended backward into what looked like a natural crest. 4 yellow eyes blinked independently of each other, and when it spoke, a mouth filled with small, needle-like teeth became visible. Attention unknown vessel. The alien spoke in surprisingly clear English, likely translated through their own systems after analyzing the human language databases that Earth freely broadcast. I am Grand Admiral Voxthar of the Valdurian Imperial Fleet. You have entered sovereign territory of the Valdurian Empire. Power down your systems immediately and prepare to be boarded. Captain Reyes maintained her composure. This is Captain Alina Reyes of the United Earth Exploration Vessel Hermes. We come in peace and had no knowledge this system was claimed. We apologize for any perceived trespass and suggest a peaceful meeting to discuss. Silence, interrupted Voxthar, his crest flaring with bright red colors. The Valdurian Empire does not negotiate with primitive species. Your vessel's design is inefficient and clearly inferior. You will comply immediately or face annihilation. Several bridge officers exchanged glances. Lieutenant Commander Tanaka bit his lip, trying to suppress a smile. Dr. Chen's shoulders shook slightly with silent laughter. Reyes maintained her diplomatic demeanor. Admiral Voxthar, I assure you we mean no disrespect, but we cannot surrender our vessel. Perhaps we could meet and discuss. You dare refuse. The alien seemed genuinely shocked. Your pathetic vessel stands no chance against even the smallest Imperial cruiser. I offer you one final opportunity to submit to Imperial authority. At this, Lieutenant Jackson couldn't contain himself and let out a snort of laughter. This triggered Dr. Chen, who covered her mouth but couldn't stop her giggling. Soon, most of the bridge crew was struggling to maintain composure. Admiral Voxthar's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. What is this response? Why do you produce these sounds? Is your life support system malfunctioning? Captain Reyes, who had maintained her professionalism until now, finally allowed herself a small smile. I apologize, Admiral. Where we come from, it's considered poor diplomatic practice to demand surrender before introductions are properly made. We find the situation somewhat amusing. You find the might of the Vuldurian Empire amusing. Voxthar's skin darkened with what appeared to be anger. No species has ever dared to laugh in the face of our power. This insult will not stand. No insult is intended, Rise replied, still smiling slightly. But threats don't work particularly well with humans. We've spent thousands of years threatening each other, so we're rather desensitized to it. Voxthar turned to someone off-screen. Target their vessel. Fire a Class 3 energy burst. Let's see if they continue their inappropriate behavior when faced with Imperial weaponry. The transmission ended abruptly. Captain Reyes immediately went into action. Shields up. Defensive posture only. No offensive measures unless I give the order. The bridge crew snapped to attention, amusement forgotten as they prepared for potential combat. The main view screen showed a bright purple beam shooting from the Lid Vuldurian vessel directly toward the Herms. The beam struck the Herms' shields, creating a brief flash of blue energy where it made contact. Then, nothing. The ship barely registered the impact. Shield status. Rise asked calmly. Shields at 99.3%, Captain, reported Lieutenant Jackson. Their weapon barely registered. Chief Engineer Commander Rodriguez spoke up from his station. Based on the energy signature, that appears to be their equivalent of a warning shot. It might be effective against less advanced shields, but our phase harmonics technology makes it largely ineffective. They're hailing us again, Patil announced. On screen, ordered Rice. Admiral Voxthar appeared again, his expression a mixture of confusion and outrage. Impossible. Your shields should have collapsed under our barrage. What trickery is this? No trickery, Admiral, Rise replied calmly. Just good engineering. I take it that was supposed to damage our vessel. That was a Class 3 energy burst. It can disable vessels twice your size. The Admiral was clearly frustrated. Rodriguez whispered to Captain Reyes, their weapons technology seems significantly less advanced than ours, Captain. They rely on raw energy transfer rather than the phase harmonics we've developed. Reyes nodded subtly and addressed the alien commander. Perhaps we got off on the wrong foot, Admiral. Let's start over. We are explorers from Earth, seeking peaceful contact with other intelligent species. Peaceful? Voxthar scoffed. You resist Imperial authority and mock our power. Prepare for full assault. The transmission ended again. Captain Reyes turned to her crew. Options, people. They outnumber us 5-1, Tanaka pointed out, but their weapons aren't effective against our shields. We could fight, but I'd rather not start an interstellar war during our first contact with them. Agreed, said Reyes. Any other ideas? Rodriguez grinned. We could give them a little demonstration. The holographic fleet system. Reyes considered this for a moment, then nodded. Make it happen, Commander. Rodriguez worked at his console. Outside the Herms, small devices launched from concealed ports and spread out around the ship. Within moments, they activated, creating perfect holographic replicas of the Herms. 10 identical ships where there had previously been only one. On the Vuldurian command ship, Admiral Voxthar stared in disbelief at the sensor display. Where did these additional vessels come from? He demanded. A Vuldurian officer with differently colored crest markings worked frantically at a console. The sensors show they're real ships, Admiral. They just appeared. Impossible. Voxthar slammed a 3-fingered hand on his command chair. Nothing can replicate that quickly. Back on the Herms, Lieutenant Jackson reported, they're scanning us intensively, Captain. And I'm detecting a significant increase in communications between their vessels. They seem extremely confused. Good, Rice said with satisfaction. While they're distracted, are we making progress on decoding their communications? Yes, Captain, replied Patel. Their translation matrix made it easier. I'm getting some interesting information about the Valdurian Empire. What kind of information? It seems they've been the dominant power in this sector for several centuries, Patel explained. They've only encountered species that were technologically inferior or easy to intimidate. They genuinely don't know how to handle someone who isn't afraid of them. So we're dealing with bullies who've never been stood up to. Rice mused. Interesting. Captain, Jackson called out. The Valdurian ships are moving into attack formation. Maintain shields at maximum, Rice ordered, but don't power weapons yet. Let's see what they do. The Valdurian vessels spread out, attempting to surround both the real Hermes and its holographic duplicates. They're targeting the decoys too, Rodriguez noted with amusement. They can't tell which is real. Rice smiled. Send a message to Earth Command. Inform them we've made first contact with the Valdurian Empire and might need diplomatic support. As she finished speaking, the Valdurian ships opened fire simultaneously. Beams of purple energy shot toward all the human vessels, real and fake. Where they hit the decoys, the holographic ships flickered but remained in place, further confusing the attackers. They're really confused now, Patel said, monitoring the Valdurian communications. They don't understand why their weapons aren't working. Let's keep them guessing, Rice said. It's time they learn that humans aren't so easily intimidated. Just as the Valdurian ships prepared to launch another volley, a flash of light appeared at the edge of the system. 3 large human vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel, led by the enormous HFY Thunderchild, Earth's newest and most powerful warship. Captain, Patel called out with obvious relief. It's Admiral Cheng and the 4th Fleet. Captain Rice smiled. Earth Command had responded faster than expected. The Thunderchild was 5 times the size of the Hermes and carried the latest weapons and defense systems humanity had developed. On the bridge of the Valdurian command ship, Admiral Voxvar watched in alarm as the new human vessels appeared. More of them, he growled. How many ships do these humans have? His second in command, a female Valdurian with lighter-colored skin, looked concerned. Admiral, perhaps we should contact the Imperial Senate for instructions. Voxvar didn't like the suggestion, but he nodded reluctantly. Do it, and keep your weapons locked on the human vessels. Meanwhile, the Thunderchild moved into position beside the Hermes. The ship's communication system activated, and Admiral Lin Cheng's face appeared on the Hermes view screen. Captain Reyes, she said with a slight smile. I see you found some new friends. Reyes nodded. Yes, Admiral. The Valdurian Empire. They're not particularly friendly, though. They've already fired on us twice. I see, Cheng said, her expression turning serious. Let me handle this. Admiral Cheng was known throughout Earth's fleet for her diplomatic skill, as well as her tactical brilliance. She had negotiated 2 of Earth's 3 existing alien treaties and was respected even by those who had initially been hostile. Open a channel to the Valdurian command ship, she ordered. When Admiral Voxvar's face appeared on the screen, Cheng spoke with calm authority. This is Admiral Lin Cheng of the United Earth Space Command. I propose an immediate meeting to discuss this situation peacefully. Voxvar seemed surprised by the direct approach. The Valdurian Empire does not negotiate with. Admiral, Cheng interrupted firmly but respectfully. Continuing this confrontation will only result in unnecessary loss of life on both sides. I invite you and your representatives to come aboard my ship for diplomatic talks. After a long pause, during which Voxvar seemed to be receiving communications from elsewhere, the Valdurian admiral finally agreed. As preparations began for this momentous first meeting between humans and Valdurians, Captain Reyes couldn't help but wonder what other surprises awaited them in the vast expanse of space, and what other empires might learn that humans were not to be underestimated. 2 hours later, a Valdurian shuttle docked with the HFY Thunderchild. Admiral Voxthar emerged accompanied by his second-in-command and an older Valdurian with elaborate golden markings on their purple-gray skin. "This is Imperial Diplomat Zexorn," Voxthar announced stiffly. "They speak with the authority of the Imperial Senate in diplomatic matters." Admiral Lin Cheng, flanked by Captain Rice and several other senior officers, nodded respectfully. "Welcome aboard the Thunderchild. Please follow me to our conference room." The delegation proceeded through the massive human warship. The Valdurians tried to maintain their aloof demeanor, but their independently moving eyes darted everywhere, taking in details of human technology and design. Zexorn, in particular, seemed fascinated by the ship's interior. The conference room was spacious, with a large oval table and comfortable seating arranged to accommodate both human and non-human physiologies, a design choice that did not go unnoticed by the Valdurians. The walls displayed subtle holographic star charts of Earth's explored space. As everyone took their seats, Diplomat Zexorn looked around at the humans with barely concealed disdain. "We have agreed to this meeting as a courtesy," they said, their voice higher-pitched than Voxthar's, "but understand that the Empire's position remains firm. You have entered Valdurian space without permission and must acknowledge our sovereignty with appropriate tribute." Admiral Cheng gestured for refreshments to be served, a human diplomatic custom. "Diplomat Zexorn, we had no knowledge that this system was claimed by any civilization. Humans are explorers, not conquerors. We seek peaceful relations with all species we encounter." "Peace is submission to imperial rule," Zexorn replied coldly. "Your primitive species should be honored that we offer you a place in our empire rather than immediate obliteration." Several of the human officers exchanged glances. Chief Engineer Rodriguez from the Herms couldn't suppress a short laugh. Zexorn turned sharply toward him, crest flaring red. "You find this amusing, human?" Admiral Cheng interjected smoothly before Rodriguez could respond. "Perhaps we should provide some context, Diplomat Zexorn. It might help you understand our perspective." She nodded to her aide, who activated the room's holographic system. The lights dimmed slightly, and a three-dimensional display appeared above the table. It showed images from Earth's long history of warfare, ancient battles with swords and shields, the devastating world wars of the 20th century, the resource conflicts of the 21st, and finally the brief but brutal colony wars that humanity had fought among its own settlements before achieving a lasting peace. "This is our history," Cheng explained. "Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We became very good at it, too good, in fact. But we also learned the value of peace and cooperation." The display shifted to show Earth's rapid technological development. The first space stations, the lunar colonies, the terraforming of Mars, and finally the development of faster-than-light travel. "In just 2 centuries, we went from burning fossil fuels to manipulating gravitational fields," Captain Rice added. "Our adaptability is our greatest strength." The Valdurians watched in silence, their expressions unreadable to human eyes. Finally, Zexorn spoke. "Your weapons technology may be impressive, but the Empire spans hundreds of star systems. We have subjected dozens of species to our rule." "And how many of those species joined willingly?" asked Admiral Cheng. Zexorn seemed taken aback by the question. "Willingness is irrelevant. They recognize the superiority of Valdurian civilization and benefit from our protection." "Protection from what?" Rodriguez asked pointedly. "From chaos," Voxthar interjected. "From their own primitive wars and conflicts. We bring order to the galaxy." Admiral Cheng nodded thoughtfully. "A noble goal, though we might disagree on methods. On Earth, we found that forced submission rarely leads to lasting peace. True stability comes from mutual respect and cooperation." Zexorn's crest flickered with patterns the humans couldn't interpret. "You speak of cooperation, yet you refuse to acknowledge imperial authority." "We refuse to surrender our sovereignty," Cheng corrected gently. "That doesn't mean we can't cooperate as equals." The meeting continued for several hours, with both sides presenting their perspectives and histories. Gradually, the Voldurians began asking more questions about human technology, particularly their shields and faster-than-light drive systems. During a brief recess, Captain Rice approached Admiral Cheng. "They seem most interested in our defensive capabilities," she observed quietly. Cheng nodded. "I think they've been relying on intimidation for so long that they've neglected certain technological developments. They've had no need for superior shields when no one could challenge them. So what's our play here?" "A technology exchange," Cheng replied. "Limited, of course, but enough to demonstrate the benefits of partnership over subjugation." When the meeting resumed, Admiral Cheng presented a proposal. The United Earth Space Command would like to offer a formal alliance with the Voldurian Empire. We would share certain technologies, establish trade routes, and coordinate exploration efforts. In return, we ask for access to your star charts and cultural databases. Diplomat Zexorn seemed conflicted. "The Empire does not form alliances. Other species submit to our rule." "Then consider this something new," suggested Cheng. "A different kind of relationship that benefits both our peoples." The three Voldurians conferred quietly in their own language, their crests flashing in complex patterns. The humans waited patiently, understanding the historical significance of this moment. Finally, Zexorn turned back to the humans. "The concept is unusual. The Senate will need to consider this proposal carefully. In the meantime, we are authorized to establish a provisional non-aggression pact." Admiral Cheng smiled. "That's an excellent first step, Diplomat Zexorn." As the formal agreements were drafted and communications established between Earth Command and the Voldurian Senate, the tension in the room gradually dissipated. When refreshments were served again, even Admiral Vox Thar accepted a cup of human tea, though he sniffed it suspiciously before tasting it. "This is not unpleasant," he acknowledged reluctantly. Captain Rice, seated nearby, smiled. "It's called chai. We have hundreds of different tea varieties on Earth." Vox Thar's crest rippled with what might have been curiosity. "Your planet sounds diverse." "Extremely," Rice agreed. "We have thousands of different cultures, languages, and ecosystems. That diversity has been our greatest challenge and our greatest strength." The Voldurian admiral considered this. "The Empire values uniformity and order. It is more efficient." "Perhaps in some ways," Rice conceded, "but diversity breeds innovation. When different perspectives come together, new ideas emerge." Vox Thar made a sound that might have been the Voldurian equivalent of a thoughtful hum. "An interesting theory. Our scientists would dispute it, but," he glanced around at the advanced human vessel, "perhaps there is merit to your approach." As the diplomatic discussions continued, Chief Engineer Rodriguez found himself in conversation with several curious Voldurian technicians who had been brought aboard to assist with communication systems compatibility. "So your shields operate on phase harmonic principles?" one asked, trying to sound casual. Rodriguez smiled. "Among other things, I'm sure you understand I can't share specific technical details until our governments formalize an exchange agreement." The technician's crest flickered with what Rodriguez was beginning to recognize as embarrassment. "Of course. Though I must admit, we are curious about how your vessel withstood our weapons so easily." "Just as I'm curious about your FTL navigation systems," Rodriguez replied amiably. "I noticed your vessels achieve remarkably precise exit coordinates. Our jumps still have a margin of error that requires correction." The technician's crest brightened. "Yes, our gravimetric calculating engines are the pride of the Imperial fleet. They can process in dimensional space folding with 99.8% accuracy." "Impressive," Rodriguez said sincerely. "We've only achieved 97.3% consistency in our calculations." By the end of the day, the initial tension had transformed into cautious professional respect. The Voldurians still maintained their sense of superiority, but it was tempered by a new awareness of human capabilities. Before the Voldurian delegation departed, Admiral Cheng presented them with a data crystal containing cultural information about Earth, art, music, literature, and basic historical records, carefully curated to emphasize humanity's creative achievements rather than their military prowess. A token of our goodwill, she explained, to help you understand the species you've encountered today. Diplomat Zexorn accepted the crystal with formal politeness. The Senate will analyze this information. In reciprocation, I am authorized to provide these navigational charts of Imperial space. You may traverse the marked corridors without interference, pending final treaty negotiations. After the Vuldurians had departed, Admiral Cheng invited Captain Rice to her private ready room. The large viewport showed the Vuldurian vessels maintaining position at a respectful distance, no longer in attack formation. "Well done, Captain," Cheng said, pouring 2 glasses of real Earth whiskey, a luxury in deep space. "Your handling of the initial contact set the stage perfectly." Rice accepted the drink. "I'm not sure laughing at them was the most diplomatic approach, Admiral." Cheng smiled. It was honest, and sometimes honesty is more effective than diplomacy. You showed them something they hadn't encountered before, someone who wasn't intimidated by their threats. "Do you think they'll honor the non-aggression pact?" "I think they're pragmatists," Cheng replied, looking out at the Vuldurian ships. "They've ruled through fear because it was effective. Now they've encountered a species that doesn't fear them, and they're reassessing their approach." And the technology exchange. Earth Command will proceed cautiously. We'll share some advances in shield technology. They'll share their navigation systems. Neither side will give away their most critical secrets, but both will benefit. Cheng sipped her whiskey. "That's how trust begins, Captain. Small steps." Rice nodded. "And what about the other species under Vuldurian control? If we form this alliance, are we tacitly supporting their subjugation?" "An excellent question," Cheng acknowledged, "and one that will be central to our ongoing negotiations. I believe we can exert a moderating influence on Vuldurian policies over time. The Senate seems more flexible than the military leadership." "Speaking of which," Rice said with a smile, "I think Admiral Voxthar was almost friendly by the end." Cheng laughed. "I noticed he was particularly interested in your description of Earth's oceans. Apparently, the Vuldurian homeworld is primarily desert. The concept of vast bodies of water seems almost mythical to them." The next morning, as the human fleet prepared to depart the system, a final communication came from Admiral Voxthar's vessel. "Captain Rice," he said, his tone notably less imperious than during their first encounter, "the Senate has approved preliminary cultural exchanges. We are transmitting coordinates for a neutral meeting point where our diplomats can continue discussions in 30 Earth days." "We look forward to it, Admiral," Rice replied. "Safe travels until then." As the Vuldurian ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Captain Rice ordered the Herms to set course back to Earth. The encounter would be analyzed extensively, reports written, strategies developed. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had encountered its first galactic empire, and rather than being conquered or destroyed, they had laughed, stood their ground, and opened the door to a new kind of relationship. It wasn't peace through submission, as the Vuldurians had initially demanded, but something potentially more valuable. Respect between different but equally determined species. As the stars stretched into streaks of light around the Herms, Rice couldn't help but wonder how many other empires and civilizations waited out there in the vast darkness between the stars, and how humanity's approach to the galaxy might change them all.